Sometimes you want to create a song and really quickly give it that studio quality. That's where Sonible's Pure Bundle comes in. These intelligent, content-aware plugins are easy to work with, but still deliver stellar sound quality. I'm going to be using the full bundle to turn this rough concept into a publishing-ready banger. So I've got my raw stems in my DAW. The first thing I want to do is kind of prep them for further work on them with compressors, EQs, effects, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm looking at this lead vocal right here, and I'm immediately noticing just by looking at the waveform, there's a lot of loudness variation, especially in this one long held note here, where we can really hear the loudness dipping as the singer is running out of breath.
Hope you're fine without me.
And I want to fix this issue by doing some input riding, some level riding with pure level. This plugin will dynamically increase or decrease the gain just so that our compressor that we're putting on in a few minutes doesn't have to work as hard, and that we still have a natural feeling to this performance. I'm starting the playback and clicking this analyze button.
Without me.
Let's listen to it with the bypass on, and then I'm going to turn pure level on, and you'll notice how the performance just stays at the same level.
Hope you're fine without me. Hope you're fine without me.
It just stays nice and present with pure level on. But pure level doesn't only fix loudness inconsistencies on a single track, I can also link up multiple instances to hit the same target level. For example, here I've got my lead vocal and I've got my background vocal. And again, just by looking at the waveform, I can see that the background vocal is way louder than the lead vocal.
Sometimes you regret.
I'm going to put pure level on my background vocal. And after learning, I can put both of these instances into a group 1. And I can now see that these two target dBs are linked up.
Sometimes you regret.
And the lead vocal is coming through much more because they are now at the same target dB. And I can do this same thing with just a bunch of tracks and save loads of time like this, not fiddling around with output gains and stuff. So for example, here I've got my 4 main instruments in my instrument group, and they're all, just by looking at the waveform, I can tell they're all coming in at wildly different levels. Some of them are pretty quiet, some of them are quite loud. I just chuck one instance of pure level on every single one of these tracks, and then I'm going to come down here, click on this matrix button. I'm going to put the 4 instrument instances all in group 2. After analyzing, they're all going to be pinned to the same loudness. After bouncing, it's really obvious that the level has been matched. And because these are all coming in at the same level, it's now much more convenient to do my balancing in my DAW, because I can be sure that something that says -5 dB on the fader is also actually going to be less loud than something that says 0 dB, right? So let's go ahead and find a nice balance for these instruments. This lead E guitar, I can immediately tell that's a little bit too loud. It's all high, so it's piercing through nicely. Can turn that down quite aggressively. The strummed E guitar, maybe that can be a little bit louder for that rock and roll feel. And then this synthesizer, I also turned down quite aggressively because it's feeling a little too electronic, plasticky to me. Yeah, that feels like a good balance for the instrument group to me. We can move on to other things. Next, I want to do just some basic de-essing. I noticed that in my lead vocal line, the S in yourself is pretty sharp, probably too sharp.
You don't even know yourself.
So I'm going to be putting on pure de-ess. A regular de-esser has a kind of one-size-fits-all approach, where every S that's coming in is getting treated the exact same way. This means that soft S's can sometimes get too dull, while sharp S's stay too sharp. Pure de-ess, on the other hand, will shape all of the S's to kind of a common target range of what an S is supposed to sound like. So you'll never have the issue of some being overprocessed and others being underprocessed.
You don't even know yourself. Let me just forget. Sometimes you regret.
As you heard, the 2 second S's that came through were just fine, even though I'm using pretty heavy settings to catch the very sharp yourself S. We've already done some basic balancing to our instrument group by just sliding around the faders, but now we're going to move on and look at the spectral balance of our song. I'm going to use Pure EQ for that. And Pure EQ is an intelligent equalizer that is going to set itself up to automatically create this nice spectral balance for whatever content you're working on. And we always need to tell Pure EQ what kind of content we're working on. So in this case, That's a low vocal. Then I start the playback and click the learn button.
Without me, sometimes you regret. You don't even
Oh, and that's a big change. Very nice. Has really brightened up my sound, really emphasized my highs.
Without me, sometimes you regret.
Now on its own, this is going to sound actually a little bit thin, but in the mix, I think it's going to work really well because all of those emphasized high frequencies are going to pierce through and the lower frequencies are going to be filled up by all of my instrumentation.
Without me, sometimes you regret. You don't even know.
Listen how much more present and clearer that is with the EQ on. Nice. And I think with some reverb on there, that's going to sound really nice. Let me quickly run you through all of the other instances of pure EQ I've got on this project. I got this strummed E-guitar. So I've got a nice V shape in here, emphasizing the lows, emphasizing the highs, making it sound just crisp and less muddy. This is the strummed acoustic guitar. So it has emphasized like my mids and my highs here, emphasizing both the picking and some of the tonal aspects and really getting rid of that like muddiness and hollowness that was initially on this track. This is the bass. Kind of the opposite has happened here. It has really emphasized my lows to give it that proper bass sound. I've gone for the warm style to further enhance the lows. And if we listen to it in the mix, it's gonna make a huge difference. So it almost disappears in the mix without pure EQ. But with it on, it's really driving the song along. That's quite nice. And then on the drums. Really giving it some oomph, some body. Emphasized also the higher parts of this drum set, the cymbals, stuff like that, and the lower parts, the kick drum. And what I also did on the drum set was increase the dynamic parameter. This will make the EQ curve dynamically adapt to the incoming signal, so we're almost getting a new filter for every single drum hit, making this drum set sound a lot more dynamic. Let's work on our dynamics with our compressor Pure Comp. What I want to do is kind of increase the presence of a lot of these tracks and glue the mix together. And I also want to enhance like the style and give some saturation to a lot of these plucked string instruments. A classic use case for a compressor is, of course, a drum set. So that's the first thing that I want to work on. Sweet. A lot more present already. I'm liking this. And of course, the tough thing about setting up a compressor for drums is finding a good balance, right? If I dial in too much, it's going to start sounding flat and stale, and I'm going to hear some pumping. But if I back it off too much, it's going to lose that compactness, that presence. So Pure Comp has actually chosen a really nice balance here. And it doesn't sound like a lot in the solo track, but in the mix it's actually going to give me a lot more drive. On the bass, I'm cool with what the compression does just in its default state. And the style set to dirty will give me some grit and saturation. That's what a rock bass is supposed to sound like, right? So on the vocal, I basically just went with the settings that the compressor recommended to me. But what I did do is turn up this clarity parameter. What the clarity does is only apply compression in the frequency regions where it's really needed. In this case, it has kind of further emphasized my highs.
You don't even know yourself. Let me just forget.
And kind of building on what we did with the EQ, this means that in the mix, the vocals will be nice and compact in the higher frequency regions, but will leave a lot of space for the instrumentation in the lower frequencies.
Hope you're fine. Sometimes you regret. You don't even know yourself.
And speaking of making my vocals more present in the mix, now I'm going to unleash my secret weapon for that. It's called Pure Unmask, and it's going to dynamically duck the frequencies of the instrumentation where the vocal sits to make space for the vocal. I'm putting pure unmask on my instrument group. I need to always put it on the kind of tracks that I want to carve out space in. Then I need to route my vocals as a side chain so that pure unmask knows which frequencies are the ones that it needs to carve out. Starting the playback, clicking the learn button. And immediately the vocals are getting a lot more audible in this mix. And having this kind of sidechain driven dynamic effect on there also means that when we're in a part of the song when there's no vocals playing, everything will be just as before.
Hope you're fine.
And as the vocals are setting in, space is being made for them and they're nicely audible. What else am I missing here? That's right, some atmosphere, some reverb, specifically on the vocals. I'm putting pure verb on the lead vocal.
Hope you're fine without me. Sometimes you regret. You don't even know yourself.
Going for a pretty big reverb here.
Hope you're fine without me. Sometimes you regret.
That's going to fit nicely into the mix now.
Know yourself. Let me just hope you're fine without me. Sometimes you regret.
Very nice. A lot more atmosphere, a lot more musical. And then the last track I want to give a little bit of reverb to is the strummed E-guitar. And for this track, I'm increasing the synthetic parameter to give me more of a spring plate type reverb rather than a natural root. It's just a classic fit for any electric guitar.
Sometimes you regret. You don't even know yourself. Let me just
And that just places this electric guitar nicely in my mix. Now the mix is almost finished. There's just one last thing to do, which is add a limiter to my master bus for a boost in perceived loudness and to make sure that our song is not clipping and ready to publish. The tool of choice is Pure Limit, of course, putting it on there. And because this is meant to go on your mix bus as a mastering limiter, it will come with the genre profiles for the types of songs you might be working on. In this case, I'm going rock, starting the playback, clicking the learn button.
You don't even know yourself. Let me
It tends to pick fairly conservative settings, so I'm increasing the gain a little bit to run into the limiter and increase the loudness.
regret. You don't even know yourself. Let me
I'm also playing around with the inflate parameter to get some more perceived loudness in here. And changing the style to hard will bring out more of that rock edge.
even know yourself. Let me just without me. Sometimes you regret.
And that's it. My mix is done. I'm really happy with it. The Pure Bundle has squeezed every bit of quality out of it. Let's listen to the before and after.
Hope you're fine without me. Sometimes you regret. You don't even know yourself. Let me.
Impressive, right? You can check out the full 30-day trial for all of these plugins at sonible.com.